So that's a lot of history in a bunch of very different environments. Now, the UK environment in and of itself in ministry is different. There's a lot of very unique, very significant things happening there around the world. I noticed your strong background in kids ministry. So talk me through just a little bit of your passions. Like, I mean, well, the conversation we use around here is, what would you do for nothing? Like, what just gets that part of your leadership and ministry life going with great passion?
Yeah. When I had to negotiate the Anglican structures, and they sent me away to a selection conference, they call it, and I sat in 3 interviews. As part of one of those interviews, somebody asked me a very similar question. They said, if they stripped everything else away from me, if they took away my family, if they took away my ministry, if they took away everything from me, what would be left of me? And I thought about it for a moment, and then I just felt prompted in my spirit, and I said to the individual, if everything else was taken away, the love of God would still compel me. And that's been my motivating force. And most of my ministry has been to do with how I maintain that pure motivation, that I'm motivated by nothing other than the love of God compelling me, not a desire to stand in front of lots of people, but a desire to communicate Jesus. And my desire to communicate Jesus to young people is based on the fact that there's a whole life to live if we can do that. It's really quite interesting. When a chap called Peter Brierley did some research in the UK on what makes churches grow, and more fundamentally, what makes people want to join a church. And he highlighted 4 things. And he said that the very first thing that attracts people to a church is the quality of the welcome, which is, well, it's actually a little depressing when I work so hard at my preaching, but so it's the quality of the welcome, what they get when they walk through the doors. The second thing was, how relevant is the preaching, not how good is the preaching or how biblically based is the preaching, how relevant is the preaching. And the third point is the quality of the youth and children's ministry. So if people come to a church and the quality of the youth and children's ministry is such that it just babysits young people and children, then people will make a conscious decision not to join that church.
Yeah, we've noticed here in our country as well that parents will position themselves in a much more sacrificial role for the sake of their children's spiritual well-being.
Yes.
And so, not that, a church would actually want to force a parent to do that, but they would for the sake of that. Yeah, wonderful. So that was the third point.
Yes, and the fourth point was, interestingly, the quality of the worship. And I was intrigued by that, because it wasn't about the style of worship. It was about the quality of worship, which is why some traditional churches can attract quite large attendance if the quality of the worship is great. So it's not about style, it's about quality of worship.
Yeah, that's an important point. Yeah, wonderful.